Welcome to Astrologic. Today we have two sets of audiences. We have our YouTube community here, and we also have our Instagram family. Welcome, everybody. This is Susie. So Astrologic, huh? So this is a show you and Ellie usually do, and with Ellie being away in Nashville, I decided to step in, and Susie and I have a great friendship, so this is going to be a really fun reading.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be wonderful. So welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everyone. So let's just do quick introductions for any new viewers. My name is Neloo Naderi. I'm one of the founders of Peace Unleashed. We are a mindfulness company based here in LA, and we publish books, workshops, videos, interviews that help you connect to that inner peace and live your best life from the inside out. And this is Susie. She is an amazing life coach, and you are astrologically guided, right, Susie?
Right.
Tell us about that.
I'm not an astrologer. I know a lot about astrology, but I use astrology as a tool to help you guide through your life and through transitions. I work a lot with people who have chronic illnesses.
Because she's actually a retired nurse as well.
I don't, I still have a license that's active, right? So I may jump in and you may see me giving shots any day now, the vaccines. So,
right.
So I have lots of tools in my toolbox, and I like to help people navigate all aspects of their lives. And I have all doors open, and I am willing to guide you in any way that works for you.
Yeah. So astrology is like one of many modalities that you use as a life coach, because like a really powerful life coach has many modalities that they've picked up across.
Correct. And it's been quite helpful. So, and it's fascinating, and if you love the stars and if you love, the planets, it's just one more tool to have in your toolbox. Right?
Yeah. And I don't know if our viewers know how you actually came into our lives, but there was a time before COVID that we used to host these amazing dinner parties, which we called meditation parties here in this house. And we did it for 4 years. And essentially, we would invite people over. We lured them in with delicious homemade food, and we'd meditate for about 15 minutes. And one of our mutual friends brought you and brought you this amazing soul into our lives. And it's been magic having her.
Oh, I'm grateful. It's been an amazing opportunity. I can't wait till we're all back in person in whatever way we can do it.
We love the live stream. We love our community, and we are ready to dig into the full moon, which is actually happening in about an hour, right?
Correct. And we're going to have a full moon in Leo, which is a fire. Yeah, very fiery. It's the lion, right? It's very much about who we are and the things that we love to do, and ourself, right? And the things that we find joy and passion in. And it is actually being opposed by Aquarius. The sun is in Aquarius, and it's exact opposites. And so it's a fascinating time to have these two planets in alignment. One is an air sign, Aquarius, the thinker, and we have fire. And together they can be a very forceful duo.
I mean, think about the elements, right? When you have a fire and you put oxygen or air, it just blows it up. So
right.
Are we going to have an explosive month? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's one other aspect in there. No. I think what it is we are going to have the energies, if we choose to harness them, to elevate what we do and what makes us thrive inside as a person and as a collective. Because Aquarius is all about the collective and the people that we meet and socialize with, and in our friends zone, and are everywhere else, right? That can be the government. So
like communities and ecosystems, essentially.
Correct. All of us as a people, as a collective, and as a universal body, this is what Aquarius rules over. So you have this very humanitarian sign that can be quirky and completely unexpected with fire, right? And with all about how the individual presents themselves and what they do to guide, put them together, and you can come up with all sorts of opportunities to expand personally, professionally, and then as a community.
So, and this is the first full moon of the new year, and obviously the wolf moon. We'll talk about what that means too. But and we just had a shift in powers in the government, so that is one of those ecosystems that you're referring to, and then also like our personal life. Like I know this is the time, right? Where like last week of January, this is the time when people give up on those New Year's resolutions. Oh. Right. And I think I remember when I did my TED Talk, we talked about like 80% of people drop their New Year's resolutions before February even comes.
Right.
I mean, that's really heartbreaking. So how does that go into that self-identity and, refining that, how you show up in this world, what's important to you?
Well, there's a couple things that I find, we have this tendency or this, societal or historical New Year's resolutions, right? And why wait until the new year to start something, right? Yeah, it is such, if you think about it, it's such pressure, right? Oh, it's New Year's. I have to have, what are my resolutions going to be? What am I going to do? But it just adds to that. And I think that fuels the drop off.
Correct.
Right. Because it's not really coming from, I really want to start something. Because if you want to make change, if you want to start something, don't wait. There's just no reason to wait. Right. And it takes that pressure off because people are not asking you, so what are your New Year's resolutions and where are you at? You're like, either, I really didn't have one, or I don't want to share it, or, yeah, but I'm, people may feel they're failing. You're not failing. If you made a New Year's resolution, you didn't hold to it. It may be disappointment, but it's by no means a failure. Nothing, right? Nothing like that is a failure. It's just too much pressure on yourself, right? So when we have a full moon, those are the opportunities to find the closure to intentions that we set at the new moon, right? So they come to fruition, they blossom, they bloom, they expand with the new moon, a full moon. Hence the full moon, right? All of that power, less gravitational pull, everything rises. So everything comes up.
So as far as like, if people are really into astrology and the stars and the process, so new moon, you set the intentions.
Correct.
For the given month. And then in that full moon, you kind of like see how far you've come, you reevaluate and then set new intentions, like set yourself up, or what are you doing? Are you celebrating the wins of your intentions?
You should be seeing the fruitions of what your intentions produced, right? And they continue on until the next new moon when you can reset your intention. But what it does is this is these opportunities to really look into it and for them to really show up at their greatest part of the moon cycles, at the greatest time of the moon cycles. So it's just a wonderful opportunity to feel and to feel into it, right? The moon rules our emotions.
Right.
So depending on the moon and depending which planet in which planets it interacts with and which sign it is at the time of the full moon will affect the effects that you have, right? Your emotions. It could be, we have a fiery full moon, and it's in the sign of, self-expression and who we are and children and our hobbies and our habits and things that we love to do that we find release from. It may be super strong right now. Like, wow, I really feel like I've got to X, right? And really give you that push and really feel it from an internal perspective. And then you've got the sun, which rules Leo. So that's all about who we are as a person, right? And now you have the sun in Aquarius, which is all about everybody else, right? Yeah. Surrounding us.
How does that work?
Which is like what rule we rule that rules Congress, right? The collective, the people. And so it's sort of a dichotomy. It's an exact opposite. So what do you do to put those two things together, right? You take those energies and you focus them on the collective and those activities that you want to do to help other people, or you focus them on things that will help you, that harness that energy for your greatest and highest good. So it's not to say that you can't do both.
So, you know, you were talking about Leo and Aquarius. And so does this full moon affect people in those, you know, with those sun signs more or less? Like how do yourself in Aquarius, how does that play a role?
I've been feeling it. I've been feeling it. Well, you know, the moon rules our emotions, right? And so those of us who have our moon in Leo,
okay,
right, or even
so this
in Aquarius,
is the natal chart, so not just
right, our
sign.
Personal chart. So the time you were born, when you were born, dictates where planets are in your chart and what houses they are in, which is the areas of life it affects, and what signs they are in. And so the moon will affect your moon. If you're a Leo, you'll be more affected. And then if you are a Leo, you would be more affected.
So if your sun sign is a Leo.
If your sun sign is a Leo, you do not have to, your sun sign does not generally dictate your moon. In other words, if I'm a Leo, my moon is not going to be in Leo, you know, likely, right? So you may go, well, I'm a Sagittarius. Oh, but I have a Leo moon. That may be affecting my emotions. So that's where that would play into it. And likewise with an Aquarius. And we have a major planet in Aquarius right now, Mercury, the planet of communication, which is playing into all this, which is going retrograde.
Oh no.
It is, so that means it's going, the energies are going.
Okay, what is Mercury retrograde? You hear all about it. I know it happens 3 times a year. The dogs are getting excited about it.
Maybe one of them was born in Mercury retrograde. So what it is the planet Mercury, which rules 2 signs. It rules Gemini and it rules Virgo. And it is the communication sign. And when Mercury goes retrograde in respect to the Earth, it looks like it's going backwards. The energies that affect us, because it's shifting how it's moving, it's slowing down, right? Can affect us. It affects communication. It affects verbal communication. It affects written communication. Anything that communicates. So it could be somewhere in your body that communicates, right? Eyes, brain, you know, and anything. Air travel, computers, anything that connects will potentially be affected. So what do you do with Mercury retrograde? It is a time to review, redo, and reevaluate. So you don't launch anything brand new during Mercury retrograde because you don't have that forward focused communication energy, right? So if you have a communication business or something you want to do where people need to hear your message,
like Astrology,
right? We would not launch during Mercury retrograde because we want to be heard clearly with the intention that my message sends. So when we are in Mercury in retrograde, the potential there is that I may say something to you and you may go, oh, but I didn't mean to say that. Or I may send you a text or an email and you go, wow, well, that was, but my intention was, it's misinterpreted because there's a divergence in the energy sending it, right?
So in those times of Mercury retrograde, both as the communicator and of the receiver of the information, it's good to know, right? Because I think it's important to like kind of keep that in mind too. Like I might be misinterpreting what is being said to me.
Correct.
Or what I'm hearing, you know, it adds a little bit more responsibility on both sides.
It does. We always hope that we message and that our message was received the way we have intended it to be received. That doesn't always happen. We don't have control about how but knowing that we're at a time where energies, where our communications are garbled, right? We want to be clearer about how we communicate and double check, right? So before I send an email or before I do something, or as I'm doing something, I'm going to recheck what I'm doing. I'm going to make sure that I dotted my I's and crossed my T's. right?
Yeah. And I think, and like from a mindset perspective, like setting the intention, like, knowing Mercury is going into retrograde, and just taking that moment to set the intention of, whatever your belief is, like God, universe, source, allow me to communicate as clearly as I can so that my message is heard, and really setting that intention regardless of, being in retrograde, and being more mindful of, like you said, like the actual tactical things that we're sending out.
Correct. When we look at, so we have a new government now, right? And we have had a lot of open communication lines that have been suddenly sprung open, right? We're seeing people speaking who we're not seeing much of for the better part of a year. When it comes to COVID and all that's gone on, we now want to be really cognizant of the messages we're sending about the situation and about how we are communicating with that, because this is a serious disease, nothing to be feared, but to be honored, respected, and being mindful of the effects that it may have on some people. Right. And so from a nursing perspective, right, we don't want to live in that fear frequency, because it takes down your immune system, increases cortisol levels, stress hormones, and decreases your ability to fight disease, any kind of disease, right? So it's critical that we don't constantly live in fear or in a high level of stress, or even a low level of stress, but that one that's always there. We want, that's
like chronic stress that's present, that you actually didn't even know you were in a state of stress until it's gone. They're like, oh, wait, this is what it feels like to not have stress.
Right. Oh, I'm constantly moving. I'm doing. It's kind of a frenetic energy that is a stress hormone that is associated with that. We are not designed to be constantly on the fight or flight response. It's not physiologically healthy for us. So when we're frustrated because we're communicating with somebody and we're not being heard, jacking up the cortisol levels, right? So being mindful that this is a time where we need to really be clear and understand what we're hearing and how we're communicating. It will take us so many ways farther. And because it's an Aquarius, Mercury's in Aquarius, it is that communication with everybody, with the collective, with everybody that we're around, our friends, and anything that we may be doing. So it hones in even closer to community, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there some best practices around, with full moons? I know we talked about, new moons, you're setting intentions, full moons, you're kind of seeing them come to fruition, and there's a celebration and preparation for going into the next cycle. But there's always this kind of frantic energy around the full moon. Or I don't want to say frantic always, but there's a lot of energy, and we feel it, and you can easily get lost in it or get swept away by it. So what are, like, as for your own practice, like, what are some of the ways you practice, like, grounding, during the full moon?
So one of the things that the moon does is affect, the tide, water, right? We are 65% of us are water, right? So when we have full moons, we tend to be more, there may be some swelling, we may have headaches, things just kind of expand, right? Especially our blood volume, things, right? So what I find is that making sure I drink a lot more than I necessarily do. Water. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, have at it. No, anything that, water, tea is a diuretic actually. So, but anything that helps us, keep balanced with our fluid levels. I like to take a bath in either Epsom salts and or Himalayan salt baths for my full moon ritual. I feel like that whole water thing, it just sort of balances me, And then one of the things I do, irrespective of which moon it is, or just at any time, but specifically during this time, is I write pen to paper, pencil to paper, crayon to paper, I don't care, but not a computer. I write out what's going on. If things are bothering me, I want them out on the paper, and I just let it all out there. Then I fold it up, fan it, whatever, light it in a safe place outside or on the stove under a vent hood, and I burn it and release it. And when I am releasing it, I release it with love, even if it was the most challenging thing that I've written about, right? With love, with gratitude for the experience, but with acknowledgement that the universe can take this on. I am done. I have learned. I am over it. Thank you very much. It's no longer mine. I release it. And it's like releasing it out of you into the ethers.
I love that practice. I mean, there's so much weight we carry, psychological weight we carry from all of these things. And I think that practice of writing it in our journal, I mean, I think journaling every day is critical, but especially during these transition times, like a new moon or a full moon, and just it takes the power away from it just being in your head, and you're allowing it to kind of like come through you, your stream of consciousness come through you on that paper, and then setting it on fire is
especially now with the fire, right?
Yeah.
It's you see this, it's almost like it's a visual, right? It's not like I wrote it down and it's being burned and you're seeing the smoke dissipate. And as it elevates and as it dissipates, you're sort of, it's a metaphorical, right? You're watching, it's a metaphor. You're watching it disappear, right? It's there and then it's just up and out.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the greatest release, I feel. This line, how, the mind, brain, body, but letting it all out in our systems, you're utilizing both sides of your brain, right? Right brain, left brain. And you are allowing that release. And whenever there's a problem that we have or an issue, the first thing we do is if you get it out and look at it, that's half the battle.
So true.
Right?
So true.
I was there was, what do you do? There was a question that I responded to in a group. What do you do when you're overwhelmed? Right. And the first thing I say is walk away from the situation, whether it's in work, whatever it is, take a step back, breathe, right? Do some breathing, and then just pause, walk back in, make a list of what needs to be done, and then take one or two of those things. You are not commanded to take it all on.
Yeah, that point is so important. And I want to emphasize, we talked about being in that state of stress and the importance of not taking action from that place, because we're going to just basically fuel that stress even more, and we're taking action from a place where we don't have a clear mind. Like we're kind of like, our mind is not at its best, and our decision making is not at its best. So I read somewhere, I can't remember the author, but essentially he said when those emotions come, just kind of lean back, like physically, like you lean back and you allow it to just kind of pass through you instead of like getting like punched back and allowing it to then, snowball into even more stressful experiences and circumstances.
Right. It's like you have said, it's sort of, we have what the feeling, it comes 90 seconds that that when something comes to you, you don't have to allow it in.
Right.
So that physical, like when I was doing this, or when I was, this is not mine, I release it. I'm using my hands because I am one of those, I'm an Aquarius. However, do that motion, right? Not mine. Or I release you, and you use that emotion. And when something comes to you and you're like, I don't like that, not mine. Right?
Talk to the hand.
No, it's just not mine. Send it away. So it's very much like what you just said, right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing, only if you need more physical, not mine. I have done that. I'll feel an energy. I'm like, ooh, that is not mine. Thank you. And I will push it away. You're sitting there minding your own business and suddenly, boom, something hits you. No, not mine. Thank you. And it's just that energetic connection with that. And it's, again, both sides of the brain, right? So, and that's so important for our health and well-being, I think. And going back to what you said, don't take action when you are stressed, angry, frustrated. How many of us have ever sent off an email and written an email at that time and got, when we were at that height, and then, that advice, that adage of, okay, put it in your drafts, do not send it, because then you look at it and you go, oh, I should never have said that, right? Thank God I didn't, right? It's the same thing. Do not do that. And we're in a communication time where you definitely want to stick that in your draft file. If you have to get that out, just draft it somewhere and let it sit for 24 hours and then look at it.
Yeah. And I had a colleague who had his best practice was he would put, I think it was like a minute delay on all his emails.
Yeah.
So that, after he sent it, he could have a chance to go back and read it and, stop it before it gets sent. This was because he got to the point where he was just firing emails left and right. And he's like he was making some mistakes. So he just put that automatic delay, and it allowed him to catch things, or even sometimes not send the email at all, pick up the phone and make that call instead. Bringing it back to that full moon, I think what you were saying about with Mercury going into retrograde during this time of Aquarius is, being really diligent that we are communicating as clearly as possible.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's critical. And especially with the environment we're in, where everybody has such a hair trigger right now, it's critical that we do that. And I have to tell you, sometimes picking up the phone and a face-to-face conversation will take the wind out of the anger out of somebody or the wind out of their sails, just by having that face-to-face communication, right? Oh, I can see who I'm talking to. I'm not just talking to a computer screen. And it can diffuse a situation and prevent it from taking that next level.
Yeah, it brings that humanity into the conversation that gets lost often when we're just sitting behind a screen.
Right.
So I want to, we had the same exact thought. So these Astrologic is a reading of the astrology for the full moon, but we also pair it with an oracle card reading from our deck, Your Heart Knows the Way. And this deck is actually signed by the creators. So Peace Unleashed published this, I believe, last year. And Ellie Shoja, my partner, she is the author, and Crystal Lorco is the artist. And for those of you on Instagram, photos of these cards are all over our page. We feature them all the time. And today you're going to see a live reading. So let's get to it.
Oh, so excited. All right. So what are we going to ask? What do we want this reading in relation to?
Let's do more of a global reading first, and then we'll see if that is a good sign, right? The dog barking. She likes that.
All right. We'll go for that. Maybe she wants a reading.
And these cards are actually available on Amazon. They're amazing. I love these cards.
They're beautiful. Each one of them is a work of art, and I say that
not lightly and non-biased.
No, definitely not. I went through every one of them when I got my deck, and I was an early recipient or purchaser of them, and they're just beautiful.
So let's have you set the intention and then pull the card.
Okay. Let's find out what we as a collective need to know or understand for this period of the full moon.
Full moon in Leo, the wolf moon. Here we go.
Which, by the way, is just because wolves tend to howl at this moon at this time of year. Oh. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, right. It's in the northern, in the northern.
They don't howl at all the moons.
Yeah, it tends to be more of a common one. January, and it's cold, and right. Okay, so.
Oh,
wow.
So can you restate the intention of the card before I read it?
Well, what do we need to know as a collective as we move forward with this full moon?
These cards are magic. So the card for today is card 39. We are one. You guys can see that. Aquarius. We are one. Of course. The Aquarian pulled the Aquarius card of the deck. So I'm going to read from our guidebook and we'll discuss.
Okay.
So we are one. Quote, love is revealed when you dig beneath our differences and find that which connects us. Do you look upon the world and see all the ways you don't belong? Do you struggle to connect, to feel loved and understood? You've decided that you're too different to be loved, too radical to be seen. You've latched your identity to your skin, and you've tied your I amness to all the ways you differ from others. With these futile attempts at claiming a unique you, you've barricaded all the windows within your house and wondered why you can't see out. This card reminds you that you feel unloved and misunderstood when you see yourself as different from others. You and your brothers are limbs of the same body, leaves of the same tree. A hand suffers when it's severed from the body. A leaf cannot live when it separates from its branch. Today, dig deeper into your definition of self. See every new encounter as an opportunity to find that which connects you to others, and take pleasure in the dwelling on what makes you and I the same. This is when you come to know that your soul is mine and mine is yours, and you and I are one.
Yeah, so that seems to happen a lot. Yeah,
I mean, wow, like
pulling a card in exactly what we.
I mean, first of all, like we were talking about the full moon, the Leo, the self, right? Mm-hmm. and then the Aquarian, the collective,
our sun, where we are.
Yeah, and just bring like, wow. I mean, this card was magic. I think something that is a little bit of a duality that's making me think. The social media, I think, has really played a role in showing us our connection, but at the same time being used as a divisive tool, either personally, like we see ourselves as outside of what's happening on social media, mm-hmm. or it's strategically being used as a divisive tool. And I think that if we can go back to the fundamentals of why we create this technology, to really allow myself to connect to somebody on the other side of the world, like that could be watching this right now, that was not possible before, to see me live and be able to communicate and interact with me. Focus more on that versus the feelings of lack that come up when you see others who have more in your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a powerful card.
And just for the right time, right, for the right time in it, and it really shows where our focus. It reiterates and affirms what we've been talking about, and what we should. I don't like the term should. What we could focus on, and how we could navigate this time, and continually, but this time in particular is a potent time for us to connect in a clear way, right? And in a less divisive way. I think it's a shift.
Yeah, and then it speaks to the shift in political power that's happening, and I think people are looking for connection and community, because there was so much divide, especially last year with what happened with BLM and the campaign. That divisiveness has left its marks, but it has created so much contrast that people are now really craving this connection to the greater whole.
Well, it's interesting because people tend to form groups, tribes, connections with people to feel included, mm-hmm. right? So whether it's a group that is in people's minds a positive group or a negative, whatever, or something that is a disruptive group, or it doesn't matter. The basis, generally, the genesis is a feeling of a need to be a part of something, to be appreciated, to be valued. And if they're not finding it in their own immediate circle, then they search for it, and whichever has the greatest pull is the one that they're going to go to, or biggest connection with them is the one they're going to go to. So it's still all about people wanting a community.
Yeah.
Right. But we would like to expand these communities and not have them closed, and still feel heard and listened to and a part of something, without having to show up in a way that may challenge another group of people in a negative way.
Yeah, and at the core of it, I think if we can remember that what we are at our core, that we're energetic beings, we're creators, and here to create an experience, that too can then allow these self-identities or these preferences that we have. We can just see them more as, well, this is a preference of how I'm showing up physically in this world. It does not make one greater or less than somebody else. But at our core, at your core, at my core, at your core, we're all energetic beings. We're here to experience on an individual level and on a collective level.
I believe it's a book that we're reading, but I know this before. There are differences are minute. Correct. Compared to the amount that we are similar, our DNA.
Oh yeah, it was like, so we're reading
99.9.
I think it's like 0.01% that we actually have different, and everything else we have in common. And when we read that, she's referring to the book we're reading in our book club. I mean, everybody was like, what? That's how much we have in common, but we show up so differently.
Right. That little bit can make such a huge difference, which goes back to yet another, it's another book. It's the, Atomic Habits, right? It's, and this book is a phenomenal book too, that we're reading right now. My Stroke of Insight.
My Stroke of Insight. Amazing book.
Just amazing. And the point is, again, let's say we take it from that perspective, but we also take it from the perspective of that overwhelm, right? That, oh my gosh, there's so much on my plate. I don't know where to begin. And so I freeze. It's those little things that can have the greatest impact. You don't have to tackle everything all at once to have the impact. You can do this one little bit and it can have as much impact, right? And so that little bit of what is within us that is different makes us also incredibly unique. But at our core, we are also similar. And finding those connections are key to improving our relationships.
And compassion. And being able to, understand, like, have I ever, said something that might have hurt someone's feelings, right? Where was I when I came from that space? Like, I was probably feeling hurt, because they say people who are hurt others. And being able to, like, just understand what connects us and what all the 99.99% that we have in common allows us to connect to the humanity of each other.
Right.
Yeah.
We just need to recognize that more, right?
Yeah. So I'm feeling we should pull another card.
Okay.
And let's see.
We are at a very powerful point in astrologically right now, and we are expanding and contracting all at the same time. And how we focus on where we are doing that will propel us either farther or slow us down. So it's incumbent upon ourselves to know that those energies are affecting all of us, right? So that we can achieve what we want to achieve, and understand that everybody else is feeling those same things as well. You may take it as a positive and somebody else may take it as a, expansion versus a contraction. So we're all getting those pulls, and it's how we go through it, but we're all being affected by the same energies.
Yeah. And that's like the genius of this universe, is that one situation can play its role for thousands of people, and it'll play a role for you and give you exactly what you need from me. And the way that all comes together, there's no way we could try to manufacture that ourselves. That's how intelligent this greater power is.
Right.
So you touched on something I think we can pull from. So if someone watching is, feeling, she likes this one too. It's feeling the, maybe there's like some self-doubt, with some self-doubt with like watching others do their thing and like feeling, oh, you don't belong here. Like, as the card was saying, like you somehow put yourself in the corner and you barricaded the wall. So let's dig into that. Like, if someone is in that energetic space, what is the guidance from your heart knows the way deck. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. I swear, this is not rigged, guys. So if you are feeling disconnected or you're doubting your magnificence, card number 7, follow your bliss. This can't be more true to help you elevate your energy and get you back into a state of flow and receivership. So let's dig in. Let's dig into card number 7. Follow your bliss. Follow that which satisfies you, and you will soon find yourself at the doorsteps of your dreams. Have you been looking to others to guide you to your desires? Have you forgotten that on your path to what you want, it is your joy that lights your way? This card asks you to stop looking outside of yourself for your compass. The path to your dreams is arduous and long when you follow someone else's map. Oof. Yet from where you stand to where you want to be, a shortcut does exist. It is lit with lanterns of joy and paved with your satisfaction. Release your stresses today. Distract yourself from your woes. Instead, find that which satisfies you. Prioritize what feels good. Make a list of all things that you love and sink into deep appreciation of these. Do this daily for the next 7 days. And as you do, listen to the gentle whispers of inspiration within your soul. It is when you follow the strands of good feeling thoughts that the solutions you've been seeking reveal themselves to you. This is how forces, both internal and external, conspire on your behalf, and your dreams unfold along with your path as though by magic. Woo! This is so important. And I think I did a live earlier this week about this. So this was something Ellie and I talked about during our retreat in January, which is, as creators, as humans, when we get into the state of flow, we're able to create magnificent objects, opportunities, and things just open up. Like you get every green light, you meet just the right person at the right time, right? And it's when you're in that state of flow or joy, and when you're acting from a place of joy and expansion. But from the external, as someone looking in, as watching this person, they're looking and saying, oh, what exactly did they do to get what they wanted, to get to where they're at? Because I want to get to that version of myself. Like, what did they do? And then they actually try to look at a blueprint of how that happened and try to replicate those exact same steps. And this is how, we have these funnels and webinars to teach people oh, how did this person do it? But what's always missing from that is the state of flow, the state of living from a place of joy, because that is what opens up the floodgates of the energy. Because you're not just acting as one single human, you're acting as a human being conspiring with all the internal and external powers of the universe.
Right.
So, Susie, what are some of the things that bring you joy, that light you up?
Well, I love to be around people.
Well, how did that go during the quarantine?
Yeah, that's been kind of a challenge. Well, the one thing that I didn't do was sequester myself so isolated that I never got out. That was one thing from day one. I always got out safely, masking, avoiding, but I got out and I touched base with humanity. Right. And so, yes, for somebody who's, tactile and who loves to connect with people face to face, it was extraordinarily challenging. I had gone on some podcasts. It was really, it was lovely to communicate with people that way and connect. I love being outdoors and hiking and connecting with nature. Horseback riding, another joy. I literally get on a horse and I can get into a Zen state, right? I am just so relaxed on a horse, irrespective, of what's going on. It's one of those places. And I have done that during quarantine, once the stables opened up. So those are those things. I love to read, and I just love to, listen to music and just connect with people,
Yeah. I think regardless of, whether you are feeling that doubt or that disconnection from the whole, what this card is prescribing, the practice of, writing down those things that bring you joy, because some of us don't even know what makes us happy. Like if someone just asks you, so what brings you joy, what makes you happy, what helps you feel light and this childlike sense of wonder, we might not be able to answer that question. Sometimes it's hard to answer that question when we're in that state of stress and we've been in that state of like chronic anxiety and stress. But taking time, especially early in the morning when you've let your brain kind of sit and rest, and just identifying those things and then actually doing them, right? Like if it is nature, like going on that walk, if it is connecting with someone, making a phone call or having a social distance tea day,
right?
Like we don't do enough of the things that bring us joy. And then we wonder why we feel so crummy.
Well, I have to tell you, for a long time, I loved to bake. I loved it. And I did it constantly. And then I stopped doing it. I think it was right around New Year's that, and I moved, and I used to have like just everything at my fingertips. And I went, you know what? I want to bake. And I said, and when I started baking and I connected with that creative side of the brain, because baking, yes, it's very deliberate as opposed to just dumping stuff in, right?
Yeah, it is.
However, the decorating, that part is, is that connecting to that other side where that creativity is, and where, you look at it and go, wow, this is really fun. I mean, and that's why I went, gosh, I haven't done this in so long. This is amazing. Why did I not do this sooner?
Yeah.
And I did find joy. I used to do it because I did it. I had 3 kids and I baked for you name it. But I still always loved to do it. And I forgot how much fun I had doing it.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool. So sometimes you go back in and you might decide that you want to paint or draw or knit or crochet, whatever it is. Whatever opens that side of you up will also take down that side that is doubtful and stressed and anxious and worrying.
Yeah. And in that joy, in that state of just being present, like when you're baking, you're being present, right? Like with like everything you're doing, that is when, solutions come to you, or when really innovative ideas come to you. They don't come when you're in a state of stress and like, all right, give me the answer.
How many times have you heard people been in the shower and some great idea popped in?
Yeah, because they're present. People love to take showers because it's me time. You can sing, you can just enjoy the water touching your skin. There's so many opportunities to come to the present moment in that shower. Yeah.
Right. See.
So,
genius.
Any final words for our viewers about this month's full moon and the 2 cards that we pulled? How perfect were these 2 cards?
That was amazing. It's, just wrapping it all up. I think it's about how we communicate with ourselves, how we communicate with people around us, how we can reach out and find that, and how it's okay and it's really right to focus on things that bring you joy, right? Because that will then expand you and will open you up to other experiences and will afford you opportunities to connect with other people as well, right? And we just need to be cognizant of the next 3 or so weeks where our communications may be a little jumbled.
With the retrograde.
Yeah, with the retrograde. It's like playing telephone, right? I say is that, and the message by the time it gets to the person is, the intention. So just remembering that, and that'll make things so much easier. If your computer starts having problems, it's not mine, right? It's just a computer. Walk away for a minute, come back, a couple minutes, and it'll probably, but know that, things like that are going to happen, and it's okay. You can just go, all right, and do not start anything brand new. If you've been doing something great, but do not go, fabulous idea, I'm going to launch it right now. No, plan.
So yeah, so it doesn't mean like just sit idle.
No,
you can use that
research.
time to, right.
Yeah, everything.
dig in, clarify whatever your message is that you're trying to create. That really good point. I had a final thought I wanted to share, but like it literally just escaped me. Oh yes, something that you really touched on earlier is it is a full moon. So if you have been kind of tracking with intention setting and last new moon, take pause to see how it has come to fruition. How has your intentions played out? And if you have wins, celebrate those wins. We don't celebrate our wins enough because that also propagates more joy.
Correct.
Right? And like it just sets you up for more expansion, more joy, more success.
Correct. Right. Message of the day, right?
Thank you,
Celebrate
Susie.
little things. Thank you. So much fun.
Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to pick up your deck of Your Heart Knows the Way on Amazon and check them out on our Instagram page. And we will see you at the next full moon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
There we go.